Monday, we reported several complaints concerning Bondell. Now, that's a multi-level marketing plan in which distributors sell water filters and try to get others involved as distributors. Steve Henningsen of Edmond and Dr. Bud Koch of the Village reported the filters they were receiving from the company in Mesa, Arizona were leaking. They resigned from Bondell several months ago and sent back their supply of water filters. Bondell promised a refund but never came through with the $800 owed to each of them. I checked with Bondell's Executive Vice President Steve Marcourt. He said those refunds would be out next week. I heard from others also awaiting refunds from Bondell. David Shepard tops the list. Bondell owes him $10,000.
Yes, sir. I was following the instructions that I had received from Bondell, their representative named Sandy May at that time.
Yeah, I see.
Right.
And as of this date, what's happened?
Nothing has happened as of this date. I have the refund schedule. I have the dollar amount that they owe me. It's been months now, and I haven't received anything from this company, not even a word. They won't return my phone calls. They're always somewhere else and won't accept my calls other than secretarial. And secretarials say, hey, they'll be back at some time or another. But I never get a call back from Bondell representatives.
Do you still get the same routine? The man who signs the checks isn't in?
Yes, sir. That's been every time that I've called. He's either out of state or out of town or on vacation or out to lunch.
I checked back with Bondell, and Marcourt says Shepard's $10,000 refund will come next week. Gordon Bailey of Norman will receive his $3,600. Harold Johnson will get his $600. Others only need contact Marcourt and Mesa to arrange refunds. He says they're anxious to accommodate all their dealers. In your corner, we'll check back. The news that is not so encouraging concerns Worldwide Resorts Marketing Group of Englewood, Worldwide had advertised mini trips to Las Vegas for $169. Those signing up had to attend a time-sharing seminar when they arrived. However, all the trips were canceled, but no refunds were made. The local office closed, not knowing what had happened. An insider at Worldwide in Colorado told me $40,000 to $50,000 was taken out of Oklahoma City for those trips, much more in other cities. The FBI was called in to investigate, but has not yet determined if federal laws were broken. Meanwhile, I learned that Worldwide owner Tony Larimore was in Honolulu, where he still has an office. I contacted him by phone. He referred me to his Denver attorneys, who said Larimore intended to pay everybody back in 6 months. He was in Honolulu, they said, to buy a resort condominium complex to sell timeshare plans. The attorney said that was Larimore's best bet for raising money to pay everybody back. He could not explain where Larimore would get the money to buy a resort. Today, I learned that officials in Hawaii suspect Larimore may be advertising trips to Las Vegas from there. That is unconfirmed. He may also be looking at a hotel to purchase. Today, when I called his office, he was in a meeting with bankers. His attorneys have nothing new concerning any refunds, but In Your Corner will continue to check out Worldwide Resorts Marketing Group. And finally, Peggy Astor at Ask In Your Corner to look into her neighborhood. She lives in Westwood Village, which only has one road in, Davis Avenue. Peggy says now that new condominiums are being built there, it could be a hazard with the increased traffic clogging up their one entry road, especially if a fire truck needed to get in. Well, the builder said the roads into his condominiums would all be one way, and the traffic would exit onto a road he would build on the west side of the condos, which would divert traffic back onto 10th Street. Well, we checked back today and found that road has now been built and will exit traffic out onto 10th, leaving David Avenue unclogged. Minor league football has not been a going concern in Oklahoma City. The teams come and go, sometimes rather quickly. The last attempt at a city football team was the Oklahoma City Drillers, which many now say is just a memory. That's especially true for Gary Lair. He remembers the Drillers because they owed him and several other security guards some money. Lair's boss got them a security job last year when the Drillers played a promotional basketball game with the Dallas Cowboys here in Oklahoma City.
Crowd control. Well, there wasn't much crowd control, but we were hired, to be in the stadium where they played.
Okay. How much were you to be paid for this deal?
A total of $150.
Each man or
No,
all together?
No, all together.
So how many hours were a couple hours?
There was from about 4:30 to 11:30.
All right. Were there any specifications made on how you were to be paid or when you were to be paid?
No.
So what have you found out since that time?
Well, I found out that they aren't answering the phone. I've tried to call them, and there's no answer on the phone. And another gentleman that worked for them that night has since sued him for his money.
And what are they?
They just didn't have the money to pay us.
So you're just out?
Just out. We all four are.
Yeah. When I looked for the driller's owner, Bill Thomas, I couldn't find him. His office, Media Plus, was closed down and a for sale sign was put up. However, I reached Thomas by phone. He explained that the driller suffered losses on the football field as well as in the financial field. He said they did owe some bills, but were trying to sell some equipment to pay them off. He said that Gary Lair and the security men, as well as other laborers, would be tops on the list to be paid. And true to his word, Gary Lair reported he and the other security men received their $150 a week later. But getting back to the drillers, Thomas told me he would be willing to surrender his stock to anyone who would pick up the team and make it survive. Monday, we reported the case of Jan Polimas, who said she had purchased a shelving unit at Country Woods and Goods. After delivery, she discovered flaws on the shelves and wanted them replaced.
I'd had it for 5 months, and he would not return any calls or anything, and I got aggravated and just took it back. I went down, ended up in their warehouse, and they wouldn't talk to me about refunding at all. They wouldn't even talk about replacing it with another piece of furniture.
But this was after they told you that there was a lifetime guarantee on this, right?
Right. There's supposed to be a lifetime guarantee on all their pieces. They wouldn't even talk to me at all about replacing or anything. They said they would fix my piece. And I can't understand why you should have to accept a repaired piece of furniture as a new piece.
Well, today I talked to Julian Harris, owner of Country Woods and Goods, who explained Jan's problem. He said when they deliver furniture, the customer signs a paper accepting the furniture as is. However, the furniture's workmanship is guaranteed for as long as the customer owns it.
Jan made several calls to the mall. It says right on our price sheets, it states our position as far as doing warranty work, that we do a charge for a one-man delivery if we come do it in their home, or that they can bring it to our warehouse and have the repair work made there at absolutely no cost to them. In this particular case, she made no efforts to get the piece either to the store or to the warehouse. She just made phone calls wondering what we would do. We informed her that her piece did have a guarantee on it and that anything that was wrong with it we would take care of.
Harris said Jan didn't bring the shelving unit in until about a week and a half ago. Then he says he told Jan they would repair it as soon as they had the materials. He said they wouldn't replace it then because it was 5 months old and now a used piece of furniture. But Jan still maintains it took that long because she couldn't get her calls returned. In the meantime, Country Woods had to leave their shopping mall location. He says the mall would not allow them to post notice. But he says they are now operating from their warehouse at 8709 Northwestern, and you can call them at 840-0862. Harris says they hope to get orders taken care of within the next 30 days. I went to visit Rusty Nichols after he called in your corner about his problem. Rusty is president of the Southwoods Resident Association. He says the residents are retired people and some disabled. They're very happy there, but they'd like to beautify their surroundings a little bit with some flowers.
We want to flower up and get the ground outlaid here on a format of beauty and makes it more comfortable like people back in their own homes instead of in a hotel. That's what it amounts to. And our whole theme is make it as pleasant as possible for the days we have left.
Rusty says the apartments are run by a nonprofit agency and financed by HUD. Rules do not allow raising funds for such a project because there are so many on fixed incomes. It gets too expensive. So the residents are trying to get the plants other ways.
When they want to, they feel bad when they can't afford it. And if you can't afford something, you can't afford it, but yet you want to take part.
Yeah.
So if I can get help otherwise, that's what I want.
You said something about trading in some cars because you're hauling some supplies. Tell me about that.
Oh, yes, I haul all the supplies for our dinners and go out and pick up the cheese and butter and stuff that the Human Services gives us. And it's pretty hard to do by the time you carry out 1,000 pounds or more in an automobile.
So you need to trade.
I need to get rid of it.
What do you got to trade?
I've got a 62 Buick that's original, and then I've got a 72 Cutlass Oldsmobile. Now, like I said, somebody swapped batteries with me and gave me one with a hole in it, so I'm going to have to let it go as is.
Well, when In Your Corner started scouting around for some help, we found some in the business community.
We're going to give them 50 roses, Jackson Perkins #1 rose bushes, and 6 yucca plants.
Coy Ferguson, owner of Ferguson's Nursery and Garden Center, said he would help. He even threw in 2 100-pound bags of peat moss for the senior citizens. With their help and the help of In Your Corner volunteer Stan Baldwin, we loaded up the rose bushes, the yucca plants, the peat moss, and headed off to the Southwoods Apartments, where Rusty had a crew of sturdy residents waiting to help unload. They were pleasantly surprised at the generosity of Ferguson's and gave us a hand getting the plants stored away until they can get them in the ground. Rusty said he and the other residents appreciate such generosity because before their retirement, many of them tried to do the same for their fellow man. Rusty used to be in the restaurant business here. He said he fed many a hungry man out of his own pocket. Another resident there is the sister of Red Andrews, a man who fed Oklahoma City's less fortunate every Christmas for many years. So they all appreciate the generosity. Some people say you get less money by trading your car in than you would if you sold it yourself. But selling yourself means a lot of trouble. Advertising the car, staying home for someone to come by and look at it, dickering over the price, paperwork, and much, much more. And if your car isn't a popular model, this process could drag on for a long time and become quite a burden, especially if you need the money right away. So now comes a new idea from Century 21, the people who developed the real estate chain. You have other people sell your house, so why not have other people sell your car? Well, that's what the program does. It's called Tri-X, and it's a franchise. 4 car dealers now have it in the Oklahoma City area. They sell your car by consignment. Bob Moore Cadillac began the Tri-X system in May.
The biggest single factor, I believe, behind the philosophy is taking the hassle out of the individuals having to sell it and the dealers having finance holes, to go with the paper where the individuals don't. And it's just kind of really just taking it off of their back.
Is it much more of a deal, any better of a deal? I guess they don't have overhead to contend with and so forth.
Well, we consign the cars at market value, what we feel like is market value, and want to put them on our lot, comparable to the kind of cars we have on our lot, which are reconditioned and ready to go, top quality used cars.
I see. Now, how deeply does your sales staff get involved? Do they do the selling, any of this?
All of our salespeople sell the individual cars. I mean, if an individual come on the lot today to look at a 79 Lincoln that happens to be consigned right now, they would go show it, probably as quick as they would any one of ours.
Now, of course, the seller of the car pays a fee, about $75 for a 30-day period. If the car is not sold by then, you can take it home or try again. The advantage of letting a dealer sell your car is that they can work on selling it all day, while you can only show it perhaps when you're off work, maybe just weekends. A dealer can also help arrange financing, which might help sell your car. Is it too soon to say whether this is working out, if the private owners are pleased with the plan, or is it too soon to know?
Well, in the month of May, we consigned 20 cars and sold 13 of the 20. And we felt for the first month, and just strictly cold calls out of the paper, we were real happy with the results.
But be aware that if you're trying to sell an old bucket of bolts, a Tri-X dealer may not want to try and sell your car. Another point is they may tell you what price they think the car can sell for, and you might disagree. If you want to try the program, look for the Tri-X sign at a dealership. Now, in California, a similar idea is being tried. independent car lots are being set up, not associated with any dealership. Those trying to sell their cars pay a fee to keep it on the lot where it's easier to show. They're called private party lots, but here the buyer and seller make their own deals. I could not find such lots in the Oklahoma City area as yet. Cindy bought a new Chevy pickup truck last October in Midwest City. She's very satisfied with the truck. She says it runs great, but it's the outside she's concerned about. Cindy noticed some paint problems. Now, you can barely see it on camera on the white background, but there are tiny marks in the paint, and she says it appears that it is pitting. Tiny rust spots that Cindy feared will just get worse and worse. So she took it back and was scheduled to have it repainted under warranty. But then she alleges the General Motors Chevrolet field representative came through and said this problem was not covered by warranty. Cindy tells a strange story.
One man said, bring it in, we'll take care of it. It was in there for 9 days. And then we went back to get it, and it's not taken care of because someone else came along and said, no, we're not going to fix it.
Oh, I see. Now, what did they say when you first went in there and started pointing out the pitting on the paint?
The man, well, I had my boyfriend take it in the first time, and he said that, or he was told it was acid rain and that's not covered in the warranty. And my boyfriend argued with him and said, I don't believe there is acid rain in Oklahoma.
What was your reaction when you heard that was acid rain?
I don't believe it.
Well, Cindy said she'd never heard that story before, that we had acid rain here, so she says she called the Chevy zone office again after she'd done some checking on Oklahoma's acid rain status.
Well, I had called the consumer relations man at the zone office back and told him that I had called the state health department and they didn't feel like there was any acid rain in Oklahoma. And he said that he knew that, but it must have happened in transit.
What do you mean in transit?
Apparently on the way from Detroit to Oklahoma. And I said, well, if that's the case, I really don't believe that's my problem. And he said, well, it's not covered in the warranty.
Well, Cindy, who is unemployed right now and seeking work, didn't have the money to get the truck repainted herself and felt she shouldn't have to since the truck was under warranty. She says there were other flaws in the paint that Chevy did fix. They repainted part of the hood, the roof, and were to fix paint chips around a taillight. Other chips they blamed on stones flying up from the road. I recommended she seek arbitration with General Motors through the Better Business Bureau. Well, the BBB called her back after she called them and said GM would repaint her truck. But when she called the Chevy dealer, they heard nothing about it, and the Chevy field representative was always out. I checked with the local Chevy zone office about the acid rain problem. They had no comment. I checked several environmental agencies in Oklahoma. They said little was known about acid rain in this state. And I called Chevrolet Consumer Relations offices in Michigan. They could find nothing about acid rain in their literature. Rick Wolf called In Your Corner and said he'd been fixing up his home. He recently added on a room in the back of the house, but there's one problem he can't seem to get fixed up. It's a drainage ditch that passes behind his home. The city easement is there. Rick says the city does come and chop down the grass, which lasts about 2 weeks. But the other 50 weeks of the year, Rick and his neighbors contend with bugs and rodents out of that ditch.
Well, Brad, we found anywhere from snakes, rats, ticks, mosquitoes, crawdads, you name it. It's out here in this thing because it holds water. When it rains, the water, it just seeps in so much, and the rest of it stays on top of the ground. And we found numerous things out in there.
Is this a problem you go through every year?
Yes, I've lived here approximately 4 years, and of course it depends on how much rainfall you get to how bad the weeds and things like this is growing. But yes, we've had problems with it every year.
How bad are the ticks getting this year?
Well, they've been so bad that I've had them all over the walls of my house, and I've had to spray. I spray about once a week just to keep them off the walls of the house, and that's not even to mention mosquitoes. Yeah. You know how bad mosquitoes are.
Now you say some rats have been climbing up out of here.
Yes, they in In the spring, of course, they stay in here, but in the wintertime, I have a large problem with them coming up and getting in my garage and in my house. In fact, last winter, I counted 8 of them that I'd caught with this particular trap.
Rick says he tries to keep his kids in the front yard because they've caught a couple of snakes in the backyard. And he says he's been building a patio in the back of his home, but he says he doesn't know why. He won't be able to use it with ticks and mosquitoes swarming over the walls. He keeps the grass mowed short and he sprays for bugs, but he says it doesn't help much. He's looking for a permanent solution, such as plowing out the ditch and spraying on a chemical to kill the foliage, or putting concrete on the ditch, as they've done a few blocks away. Well, I checked with the city streets and maintenance department. Fred Thompson answered that killing the foliage in the ditch would cause erosion of people's backyards, and to get the ditch lined with concrete would take a passage of a bond issue by the city council. Thompson says with the size of the crew he has and the size of the budget, they can only get around once a year, because he says there are miles of drainage ditches to take care of in the 650 square miles of Oklahoma City. Thompson said on completion of their current job, they would check back on Rick's area and see if they could work it into the schedule once again. But any permanent solution to the problem would have to come through the city council, enlarging the streets and maintenance department, which could result in higher taxes. I'm Brad Edwards in your corner. Drew Enterline told me she moved out by Peebly Road because she liked the peace and quiet of a rural setting. What she doesn't like is the fact that a neighbor behind her, Bill Atkins, has raw sewage running from his mobile home onto the ground. Drew says her son became acquainted with Atkins' son. Soon she heard about the sewage problem. Now it worries her and her neighbors. So Drew decided to call the health department about it, but she didn't know which one to call. She lives in a part of Oklahoma City that's located in Cleveland County. She has a McLeod telephone exchange and a Newalla mailing address. But finally, she contacted the Oklahoma City County Health Department.
Yes, the health department called. When I called them and asked them to check into it, they did. They called me back and told me, yes, there was a violation. They saw exactly how it was being done and that they would take care of it.
Have they?
No, sir, they have not. They told me that they gave them a 20-day notice. And when that 20 days ran up, I called them back. They informed me that there wasn't anything they could do until sometime after the first of the fiscal year because they were not getting traveling expenses and they didn't have the money to take it out of their own pocket. So there it sits. The man told me that he thanked me for calling and to keep reminding them because they do forget these things.
Well, ultimately, what kind of problem could this present for you and your neighbors?
Well, a friend I work with, her brother's an engineer. He teaches at OU. He said that eventually this can pollute our water, that we are on a shelf out here, and this is all sand, and that is just seeping in with nothing, to kill it out or anything.
Drew says she wasn't allowed to move her family in or have electricity turned on until inspectors saw she had a septic tank. When she asked why her neighbor was permitted to have utilities without a septic tank, she alleges health officials told her he must have just slipped by. Well, before I checked with health officials, I wanted to see if the problem still existed. I couldn't find a phone listing for the Atkins, so I went to their door. Mr. Atkins wasn't home, but his stepson showed us the problem. A drainage pipe extended from the back of the house where raw sewage ran onto the ground. Later that day, I heard from an angry Mr. Atkins who said he was going to have a septic tank installed the following weekend, that he had already made a down payment. Well, that was a week ago, but still nothing was done. I checked with Leroy Love of the City County Health Department after my visit. He said they had travel funds once again, and he'd checked back on the Atkins sewage problem. On the following day, Love found no septic tank was installed at the end of his 20-day warning period, so he filed charges against Atkins. The court date was set for August 1st. Vicki Huddleston told me she has 2 children, a 4-year-old and another in diapers. She and some other mothers in her neighborhood tried to take their children swimming at the Mecklenburg City Pool in their neighborhood, but a combination of rules kept them out.
walked up to the admission place and offered to pay, and they said, I'm sorry, but there are no infants allowed. And we said, well, the infants won't be swimming. We're going to hold the babies and let our toddlers swim that were ages 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
And they said, I'm sorry, but you cannot take your babies in there. It's an Oklahoma City health regulation rule. You cannot take babies in there.
Okay, now, you've done a little searching around about
Yes.
this, and did they tell you what's behind that policy or what the policy is?
Apparently, no diaper in the pool area, meaning the fact that they cannot let any plastic or the cotton of the diaper get into the filtering system. It would burn out the motor. So therefore, the mother can't even hold the baby on the deck area, in the pool area at all.
Okay, now, did you find that to be a consistent policy everybody you talked to?
No. Some say that the rule was under the age of 5. They must have a guardian no matter what. Some say that if the diaper was removed, you could take the baby inside the pool area, which I asked specifically for the hygiene reasons there. I said, so you're depending on your chlorine and your filters to take care of what comes after the no diaper? And he stated yes.
So, are you clear on what this rule is? I'm not. Is it the fact that you can't take an infant in because of sanitation training or because of the diaper?
Because of the diaper. They don't care what's after the diaper, apparently.
And you also heard that some places or some people told you that you could take an infant in if it wasn't wearing a diaper.
Right. Right.
Okay.
As long as the diaper was not on him.
And some places said no babies, no infants whatsoever.
Right. They state clearly, it's on a little handmade sign, no infants.
Well, the result was that Vicki and her children couldn't go swimming because she wanted to watch her 4-year-old, but couldn't go in as long as she was carrying a baby in diapers. Thoroughly confused, In Your Corner checked around to find out why parents couldn't take an infant in the pool area, even though it would not be put in the water. We heard a variety of reasons also. Vicki showed me a copy of the state rules she received, which say no children can be admitted to the pool if they are unable or untrained to use sanitary facilities. Well, I checked with the head of the Parks and Recreation Department, Ken Wilson, who explained the policy as a sanitary measure as well as a safety measure.
The whole idea is to try to provide the safest and, the best atmosphere for recreation for parents as we possibly can. And then, of course, the only thing we have to turn to is rules and regulations. And sometimes those rules and regulations are not pleasing to some people who run across them. We've had instances where we've let parents in with their babies in diapers where the parent got in the water with the baby in a soiled diaper, and we had a sanitation problem. We were written up by the state health department.